So, what's up with Brent? He says, several months late and still somehow more topically than usual. I'll be honest, I'm jumping on this because I've secretly been dying to talk about the YouTuber pipeline ever since I saw his vines. The best thing you can say about most of them is that they were trying to be funny. Since then, his content has evolved, much like a sunfish. Incorrectly, at least according to the fans that still haunt his Vine compilations on YouTube. Maybe it was the flat caps that did it for them. Who am I to judge? Unfortunately, judge them I shall. I do not relate to a single positive comment describing his whole video style, but logically, I get it. He was an extremely unfunny pasty dork. Look who's talking, don't read this out loud. Ah, damn it! Regardless, at least he was an earnest, unfunny pasty dork. He wasn't putting this on the internet to play to a crowd. He put it there because he genuinely thought it was funny. And I swear, we're still not talking about me. For a while, his YouTube content was more or less the same until he moved on to vlogs as the Vine starter pipeline dictates, and much like many others that came before and after him, he sucked at it, both artistically and technically. He was a boring, uneducated man with potential early onset Parkinson's. I still have no idea, with his substantial income and technically years of experience, he somehow got worse over time. Like, the shots are in focus, it's a wide angle lens, and he's not unbelievably annoying. What's with the shaking in his most recent videos? Is someone punching the camera? Like, just chill out for 5 seconds. Jake Paul had the same vibe going on in his vlogs, but he intelligently figured out what the issue was and surgically removed it on a very technical level. It was him. He was the problem. He knows little about video production and points the camera like he's trying to rob a bank. And I will concede, Brent was less of a burden on his own content's production than Jake's. He's not getting confused what type of shooting he's doing, but based off the amount of motion blur, he might think it's a sword. The Vine 2 pipeline entangles them still. Since then, both have moved into smaller niches, with Jake punching men's bodies and Brent their souls, or more specifically the frontal lobe. When I say Brent is weird, this is kind of what I mean. Ignoring the sister diss track that sits in the uncanny valley of being adorable, making it truly pathetic, or the trope on his channel where he keeps trying to get his friend to bed his sister, to the point where it would be uncomfortable if it was a Minecraft server, his content just makes him look like a goober, and I really hope that's not slang somewhere. The worst part is his content is theoretically interesting, but his titles are extremely clickbait to the point where it becomes part of the video. Like, surviving world's most dangerous jobs, exclamation point, exclamation point. Firstly, not important, but I'm going to say it. There should be a the. It doesn't bother me, I just think the internet is the worst thing that happened to the language and I'm permanently trapped in an English gulag. Secondly, the title's not wrong, but it clearly plays to a specific crowd that just, again, changes how you watch the video. The content itself is rather interesting, and if it were edited differently, I would probably really like it. And it's not just because there's a section on motorsports and I've been deprived of F1 this year. I can't explain it, but if I got the chance, I would consume one of the cars. Back on point, these jobs aren't hyper dangerous. There's at least 30 in the US that are more dangerous, but a video about Brent logging would be catatonically boring. This video is basically just, look at all this cool stuff I did, and like, yeah, it's cool. Unfortunately, his goobiness, his gooby fingers infected. I alluded to the editing before with my masterful subtext, and for those who don't know what subtext is, it's when you say something but very quietly. His content seems to be solely revolved around catering to children that have such chronic ADHD the thought of silence alone would turn them to dust. He is one bad decision away from just adding Subway Surfers onto the side of his content. Doing any of these jobs in any capacity is actually interesting to me, someone who is uninterested about things I should very much be paying attention to. He does 5 jobs in total, but the entire video is only 16 minutes long. The stock car section alone, in which him and his 2 friends sit inside the car when someone else drives and then drive the car themselves, is only 3 minutes long. It feels so rushed you could almost assume he's embarrassed by the video and desperate to get it over with. A lot of them almost feel like Max Fosh videos, except he stubbornly refuses to explain himself in case doing so would make people think he was a nerd for using his brain. Opening a 5-star McDonald's restaurant genuinely looks like a Max Fosh video, except it's missing all the comedy, honesty, editing, additive voiceover, and generally a point to watch it. All his videos have the thin facade of reality. Like, this clown didn't just do this without Brent and his crew telling him to do it beforehand, but it's extremely odd, and it kind of ruins the video because you know it's fake. Creating an entire fake restaurant for the sole purpose of being kind of mean on the internet to a giant billion-dollar corporation and then shutting down before you have to get into a legal dispute is a good video concept that Brent rushes through, rehearsing every conversation before it happens. I don't care about the restaurant, I care about the journey. The friends we made along the way. Tuck me in at night, dude, tell me a little story! The only reason to do this instead of filming the entire process and just documenting that is you aren't naturally excitable or charismatic in the way Brent wants to appear in his videos. It's faked in ways that videos usually aren't, or you just don't know how to be funny without preparing in advance. We're talking about me now. None of you know this, but I am 10 times funnier in real life, and none of you will ever experience it. Truly, the world has been robbed. Just like I robbed D's nut. While Brent is obviously not like this in real life, as he is putting on a face to make sure his preteen fans don't lose focus, we also know that Brent is absolutely nothing like this in real life. Yes, I'm finally going to talk about the thing with the... Yeah, in my opinion, as both a professional man doing this job and an amateur goober, it is impressive how poorly the situation reads on pretty much everyone involved. I wouldn't be surprised if Brent's cameraman ended up dying a week later like a pharaoh's curse has come to kill him. Brent obviously came out of this looking the worst, and far worse than he actually had to. As has already been pointed out by my fellow people, he said seriously, less than 1/10 of their size. But it is worth pointing out that Tyler comes out of this looking a little weird as well. I mean, to be fair, it's pretty difficult to look innocent when it's extremely obvious you're trying to provoke a reaction. Even though I don't like his content, and it's the last thing I want to see before I die, if Brent just said, "Hey man, come on, why are you being so weird? We can both film at the same time," I would be fine with that. If he called a YouTuber dibs, I would say he's being a bit of a dork, but he did call dibs. So Tyler looks weird simply because he's trying to provoke a reaction from Brent. Nothing more to it. He went to a spot where Brent was filming, and then, once he figured out he was there, specifically tried to annoy him. It is the give me your lunch money of being a YouTuber. Brent, on the other hand, reacted extremely immaturely given the overwhelming power he has, with the scaling factor known as having more dudes. Any social situation can be solved by just having more men, and Brent definitely had dudes, and more of them. The most interesting part to me is the responses, in which both of them are wrong about rather factual things. For instance, Brent says Tyler came a hailing, accusing him of faking his pranks, which is technically not true. Tyler just points out that they are actors and asks if they were hired by Brent. He also asks if Brent fakes his pranks. It's not an accusation, but he is saying things accusingly. You aren't going to ask him if his videos are fake without clearly implying something. But at the same time, Tyler said this at very normal volumes. Brent says Tyler approached him saying awful things about him, his friends, and his sister, whereas Tyler proclaims that he only asked if Brent kissed his sister. So it's not really awful things as much as kind of weird thing. Don't get me wrong. It's a valid point. Tyler makes it in his response and concisely gives out evidence. It is morally questionable on Brent's part, but saying it to his face obviously will play a little different to him. It is an awful thing to say to someone's face. It's also extremely justified as a critique. So, yeah. Now all this seems like a petty nitpick of the wording of 2 unscripted, source-needed TikToks, and you would be correct, but it's kind of worth looking at and imagining if Brent wasn't the focus of this video, would you still believe everything you do? Brent acted rather defensively at the start in comparison to Tyler's calm demeanor, but what would you do if a project you're making, regardless of artistic value, was suddenly thrown off the rails because of some dude that just doesn't like you very much? You have to shut down production, and every delay is more money wasted doing nothing and risks ballooning the project out of scope. It's easy to overlook, but by the fact that Tyler initiated, he's clearly more prepared for this and comfortable getting into someone's face. I can't honestly say that I believe that you can give someone 5 seconds and expect an accurate portrayal of their character. Now, Please internalize everything I just said, because it's also important to know that Brent, when given the chance to defend himself with a calm demeanor, did not do it. He immediately escalates every single situation, regardless of prep time. When asked if he fakes his pranks, he says no, and asks if Tyler faked his. It's too quick. He smelt blood in the water and something deep inside took over. Again, if he had just chilled out, put aside the feeling of being attacked and talked to Tyler, creator to creator. That was a joke about whatever. And he's like, hey man, I'm sorry, I don't think we've met. What's this about? Do you want to change shooting schedules? Like, do you want to work on this together? What's up, dude? Oh my god, he would have looked like an all-American hero. Even after having the time to think about what he should do, he tried to dunk on Tyler with have fun with your 100 subscribers and then called security, which definitely takes the many dudes proposition too far. If Brent immediately stopped speaking and just stared at Tyler as soon as he started asking questions and never blinked, it would have been a better reaction. So I've detailed my opinion on Brent, Tyler, and their responses, but it's worth explaining another aspect that makes this weird, which is the fact that Brent responded at all. Tyler responding makes sense. His audience seems like the type that is at least old enough or mentally mature enough to understand the response and the situation in its context. Brent's demographic, on the other hand, might consider the Wiggles a bit too mature. The younger the audience, the less likely they are to care about petty drama that relates to personal interactions. Basically, anything that makes the parents step in doesn't exist. Brent's response plays to literally no one, because his audience would watch him regardless. It's not like he's overwhelmingly loved and needed to clear his name. This explains why his content feels like an advertisement for Adderall. His video topics have to be bombastic and more bombastic than the last because every video might be someone's first video of his. The thing about young demographics is that the turnover rate is remarkably high. It also explains why he has run out of content, because it seems eventually you just do that when you're trying to one-up yourself all the time. It's why he's resorted to borrowing video ideas and thumbnails. This is extremely common on YouTube, but usually it's not that important. Technically, the majority of Moist Critical's library is borrowed ideas because he references videos that cover the topic in his videos. It's just that that fact is usually irrelevant because what he's saying is different than what's in that video. The same thing applies to thumbnails. Drew Gooden and Eddie Burmack occasionally make thumbnails that are almost identical because they talk about extremely similar topics and they have to elicit the same feeling. You put the same input into a black box, eventually you're going to get similar things coming out. Even then, you still have to cherry pick some examples. Like, they have the same aesthetic, but the moment you look at them for more than a second, they're clearly different, and it's easy to tell that they were made independently of each other. Then you have Brent. These only look similar because they have similar aesthetics and are extremely simple. There are only so many combinations of man in video, picture of text, and solid background before you realize that the word copy doesn't really apply. These two are just the same thumbnail about the same thing. Brent just stole his idea and the thumbnail from another dude. I can't guarantee that any of his videos are plagiarism free, and I also don't care to check. Making sure I'm right is hard. I prefer not to do it. Truly the worst part of this arrangement is that his videos are just worse in every single way from what he's taking. The original of this video spends a lot of time detailing the building of the house, like what that infers, the materials, the process, all that. Brent's video has none of that. Instead, he spends the majority of its runtime doing some weird fake party interactions because I guess that's what he thinks his fans want. Again, horrendous goober activity. I hope one day he does discover a style of content that's truly personal to him and learns how to process others' actions in a way that isn't detrimental to him or makes him lose his temper. Not because he has to in order to be successful as a YouTuber. I just think it's important to do it as a creator, as a human being. But either way, fellas have been on the side. Thanks for supporting me. I won't take up too much of your time. I hope you enjoyed it. I know this is obviously not in the current cultural zeitgeist. I don't expect it to be. I never expected this to be topical or on time. This is mostly just, it's fine. Don't worry about it. Au revoir. I'll see you later.